बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम, अस्सलाम वालेकुम, गुड इवनिंग एंड नमस्कार टू एवरीवन। मैं हूं फखर यूसुफजई और आप देख रहे हैं डिबेट विद फखर। डिबेट विद फखर आज बहुत ही स्पेशल है। हमारे बहुत सारे गेस्ट, मतलब जब से मैंने अपना चैनल शुरू किया हुआ है तो बहुत सारे गेस्ट ने मुझे ज्वाइन किया है मुख्तलिफ, मेरे ख्याल में दुनिया के मुख्तलिफ कंट्रीज से। जहां की भी हम बात कर ले उसमें हिंदुस्तान के हमारे बहुत सारे दोस्त मुझे ज्वाइन कर चुके हैं, यूके, अमेरिका, कनाडा, ऑस्ट्रेलिया, न्यूजीलैंड, पाकिस्तान से। बट आज की जो मेरी गेस्ट है दैट इज वेरी स्पेशल। आप लोग जानते हैं लेकिन उनका इंट्रो, जो उनका इंट्रोडक्शन है दैट इज वेरी लॉन्ग, आई थिंक सो। मैं पहले उनसे मेरे ख्याल आपको दिखा देता हूं कि हु इज ज्वाइनिंग मी टुडे इन डिबेट विद फखर। दैट इज प्रीति ओपाला. If I'm not wrong, Preeti, how are you? And good evening. That is too late night time in the US, but I will say good evening to you.
Assalamu alaikum, Fakhar Yousafzai Saab. Namaste, Namaskar, Adab, Sat Sri Akal to everyone. Pleasure to be on your show. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me, and Ramzan Mubarak to everyone.
थैंक यू वेरी मच प्रीति, बहुत शुक्रिया आपका। आपने रमजान की मुबारकबाद दी। लेकिन फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल मैं इंट्रोडक्शन करवा दूं। वैसे उनकी इंट्रोडक्शन की मेरे ख्याल में जरूरत नहीं है, बट इट्स द फॉर्मेलिटी ऑफ आवर शो। तो हम बात करेंगे कि मतलब प्रीति करती क्या क्या है। शी इज ए जियो पोलिटिकल एक्सपर्ट। आप लोग जानते हैं मुख्तलिफ इश्यूज के हवाले से वो बात करती है, और जो इंटरनेशनल कॉलमिस्ट है, शी इज राइटिंग फॉर इंग्लिश न्यूज़पेपर्स, वर्किंग विद द टीवी एंड रेडियो इन द यूएस। इसके अलावा जो उनकी एक्सपर्टीज है दैट इज द यूएस एंड इंडिया रिलेशन। एंड इसके अलावा अगर हम बात करते हैं साउथ एशिया की, तो इस पे भी बहुत ज्यादा इनका फोकस रहता है। और वो इसके ऊपर अक्सर इंडियन न्यूज चैनल्स के ऊपर हम इनको देखते रहते हैं, यूट्यूब पे लोग इनको इनवाइट करते रहते हैं, और बहुत सारी जगहों पे हमें ये नजर आती हैं। शी इज अ ब्यूटीफुल लेडी, आई विल से दैट आल्सो, बट ब्यूटी विद, मैं जिसे कहते हैं ना ब्यूटी विद ब्रेन जिसको कहते हैं, खूबसूरत जहन के साथ। शी इज अ वेरी इंटेलिजेंट लेडी। आप लोग देखते रहते हैं, लेकिन एक दफा फिर मैं उनको कहूंगा वेलकम टू द शो प्रीति।
Namaste. Thank you so much.
बहुत शुक्रिया, बहुत शुक्रिया। थैंक यू वेरी मच प्रीति, यू हैव जॉइन माय शो डिबेट विद फखर। हम स्टार्ट करेंगे, अगर इंडिया से हम शुरू कर लें इस रीजन में। मोदी जी जब से आए हैं एज ए प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ इंडिया, तो इंडिया पहले भी लोग जानते थे, इसमें कोई शक नहीं है, एक बहुत बड़ी हिस्ट्री है उनकी। बट आफ्टर मोदी रिजीम इंडिया कहीं और स्टैंड करता है। मेरे ख्याल में इंडिया बहुत नीचे से बहुत हाइप एक क्रिएट हुई और बहुत आगे आया है। वर्ल्ड जब स्टेज के ऊपर हम देखते हैं बड़े कंट्रीज के साथ खड़े होते हैं, क्या नजर आता है आपको कि क्या ऐसा किया है मोदी जी ने इन लास्ट 5 to 6 और 7 ईयर्स कि हिंदुस्तान जो है वो अमेरिका के साथ हो, ऑस्ट्रेलिया के साथ हो, जापान के साथ हो, या वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज के साथ हो, वो एक स्टेज पे खड़ा रहता है और एक बड़ी रिस्पेक्ट कमाई है उसने वर्ल्ड स्टेज के ऊपर।
Well, thank you again, Yousafzai Saab, for having me on your show. Great question, Bilkul. This is a lot of people talk about this. I think there is a before Modi and there is an after Modi for India. I think before Modi we were almost apologetic for being Indian, for being Bharatiya, and although we have always been the greatest democracy in the world and given the world yoga and ahimsa and meditation, and we are known to be this sort of peaceful country, old ancient civilization. However, I think that pride of who we are, the identity, what is the Indian identity, what does it mean to be Indian, what is the India story, all these things suddenly after Modi, I think almost every Indian citizen started thinking about it, because for the first time, I think in 70 years post independence, we are seeing a prime minister who is proud to be Indian. I'm sure you know our history of failed prime ministers that we've had from the Gandhi family and so on. And it was just that their idea of India, I think, was so different from what the common man experienced. So with Modi, this is a person he came from nowhere. He's a tea seller, and
Yeah.
he's now the leader of the free world in many ways. So I
Hmm.
think every Indian feels more Indian. They're proud to be Indian, and they're proud to, I think, declare to the world. And also with economy, with the GDP, because we have the military, we have the population, we have a young population. So suddenly all the dynamics work for India, and we are seeing a decline in Europe, UK, the empire is done. US, we don't have to speak too much about the chaos that is going on. It's a divided country in so many ways,
Yes.
failed, I think, morally and spiritually. And you have the only two powers are rising, China and India, and the less said about China, the better. So which leaves only India, to be honest, as a country that's responsible and that everybody can look up to. So I think for the first time post Modi, we are proud to be Indian. I think Modi has sort of instilled that pride, and I think the
Hmm.
identity and idea of India is more clear today than it ever was. So that's just a brief sort of summary of, I think, what Modi has done for the country.
Yeah, that's good. Actually, I'm watching him from last couple of years that India is going up day by day around the world. Especially जब हम बात करते हैं इस रीजन में, तो हिंदुस्तान का एक नाम जो है वो बहुत ज्यादा आगे आया है. हम पाकिस्तान की तरफ भी आएंगे and I will ask so many questions regarding Pakistan, but आएंगे यूएस एंड इंडिया रिलेशनशिप के ऊपर. इंडिया पहले रशिया के साथ उनके बहुत अच्छे रिलेशनशिप्स थे, बट राइट नाउ वो एक शिफ्ट आया है फ्रॉम द रशिया टू द यूएसए. इसको कैसे देख रही हैं, मतलब इसको बैलेंस करना, क्योंकि रशिया एंड यूएस आपस में उनका एक जिसे कहते हैं कि एक राइवलरी हम कह सकते हैं, एक हिस्टोरिकल, वो अफगानिस्तान के पर्सपेक्टिव से हो या किसी और तरीके से अगर हम बात करें, तो क्या नजर आ रहा है कि इंडिया कैन बैलेंस द रिलेशनशिप विद रशिया एंड द यूएस?
Bilkul, very good question. It's not going to be easy. During the Trump administration, I think India and the US got very close, more close than they've ever been. Which was, ironically, it worked out. Even during George W. Bush Jr.'s time, somehow he saw India as an ally, which
Yeah.
was good. The problem that India is going to have is, for so long they've had this romantic, sentimental love affair with the Soviet Union and then Russia. And
Yeah.
I just think that the times have changed. US is not an adversary now. They are going to be our great ally, and India is going to be a great ally to the US, defense partner, strategic partner, all of those amazing things. So India, I think, I'm not so sure you can have a 50-50 relationship with both, because these two are the greatest adversaries.
Yeah.
Ironically, it should really be the US and China that should be the greatest adversaries, which maybe post COVID, I hope that's, Americans here, foreign policy experts, and the government here is going to wake up and realize who their friends are and who their enemy is, because somehow they seem to be lopsided on that issue. I think India has to be careful. They obviously don't want to cut this historical tie that they've had with Russia at a time when nobody else came to our rescue. Russia, Soviet Union was there, right? So
Exactly.
nobody can forget that. However, I think times change, foreign policy changes. Also, the closer Russia becomes to China, they start becoming kind of indifferent to India. They're not such a great ally anymore. And I think Russia needs to also wisen up and tread carefully with who it wants to go to bed with. I don't think China is the best, let's say, bed partner for them. They really need to be very careful what sort of relationship they're trying to develop with China. So the more closer Russia gets to China, I think India has to get away from that alliance and really go all in with the US. Uh, I think they'll try to balance it in some way, but I just feel like the momentum is really more India going towards the US, and probably that's better considering their democracies. And I know both countries have their fair share of problems. No one's perfect, but at least they're not rogue. And I think the more closer you get to China, you understand rogue elements at play and the havoc that they've caused to the world. With their so many initiatives, and of course, COVID thing too.
Okay. Actually, if we will talk about the India, of course, we will talk about the China as well in this region. जब हम वर्ल्ड स्टेज पे चाइना को भी देखते हैं तो चाइना एक इकोनॉमिक पावर बना। पिछले 10 सालों से 15 सालों में हमने उनको देखा कि उनकी इकोनॉमी बहुत ज़्यादा बूस्ट अप कर गई। बट आफ्टर द कोविड-19 एक बहुत बड़ा शिफ्ट नजर आया चाइना के हवाले से अराउंड द वर्ल्ड। यूरोपियंस की अगर हम बात करते हैं, यूएस की हम बात करते हैं, या अगर हिंदुस्तान की हम बात करते हैं, तो एक बड़ा शिफ्ट नजर आया है लोगों में। लोग कहते हैं दिस इज नॉट द कोविड-19, दिस इज द चाइना वायरस। तो उसकी वजह से हम क्या क्या नजर आता है इन द फ्यूचर? हम चाइना को कैसे रेट कर सकते हैं कि आया इन द नेक्स्ट 5 or 10 years वेयर विल चाइना स्टैंड?
बिल्कुल interesting. I think post COVID, now the world is seeing probably what India saw for the last 20 years, because we've been at a border war with them. They've been
Exactly.
there and they occupied some of our territories and so on. And now everyone is seeing China for for the aggression, for the manipulation, for hiding, zero transparency, almost lying cold face to the world about what happened, where it came from, and not having any answers, and going along with fighting border wars while COVID is going on. So the whole world is very sort of they have their eye on China, which is good. I'm happy to see the US finally sort of wake up, because I think with the Democratic Party specifically, foreign policy is not their strongest suit. They always get foreign policy wrong and geopolitics wrong. So they have always been kind of soft on China. And I think for the first time, we are seeing a slightly more aggressive US, at least on paper, at least with rhetoric. Um, they're not they don't seem to be forgiving China for what's happened over the last year, relating to COVID and so on. um, China, the interesting thing is that obviously being a nuclear armed country with one of the largest, strongest militaries in the world, also their location is very strategic. The communist dictatorship, totalitarian government, I mean, it becomes very easy for them as one country to sort of mobilize, and very hard to penetrate and defeat them in a sort of conventional war. So you hope that there will be a revolution, actually. And some analysts are predicting that it's going to implode from within. From inside, there might be a proper revolution, and the people really crying out, speaking out in anger, disappointment, rage, whatnot, some sort of civil uproar of disobedience, whatnot. That is one thing. I think their allies are going to completely isolate them. They're only going to be left with maybe Turkey and a few other countries. So we hope that the more isolated they get, and then they'll become like just a big North Korea, So and then the internal implosion of some kind. That's the only solution, because I don't see the US attacking it. I don't see Russia attacking it. India is not going to dare do that, because it has 1.4 billion people that it needs to defend, and it's a nuclear armed country. I mean, you don't want these two huge countries to get into a nuclear conflict, right? That would be the end of the world as we know it. So I think with China, leave it alone, let them sort of kind of let the manifestation happen, let karma take its toll, from a spiritual perspective.
ओके एक चीज और हमें नजर आती है हांगकांग में। हमने देखा बहुत सारे प्रोटेस्ट पिछले हम 2 सालों से अगर देखें तो हांगकांग के लोगों ने Uyghur Muslim is the big issue for China, I think so right now. US is also talking about that issue, and the other Western countries are also talking about that issue. How China will tackle that? अगर हम देखते हैं, क्योंकि पहले कोई ऐसी चीज़ नहीं थी, बट राइट नाउ एक बहुत ज़्यादा इंटरनेशनल मीडिया उसको बहुत फोकस्ड है, उसके ऊपर बहुत सारी रिपोर्ट्स आती हैं कि किस तरीके से लोगों को वहाँ से माइग्रेशन पे बाय फोर्स माइग्रेशन करवाई जाती है, फीमेल्स के साथ जिस तरीके से रेप के वाक़यात, बहुत सारे गैंग रेप्स एंड सो मेनी थिंग वी कैन टॉक अबाउट दैट। ये चीज़ें होती हैं, तो उसकी वजह से चाइना को कितना नुकसान हो सकता है?
Gee, even though international media is rightfully covering this Uyghur, catastrophe, this horrible human rights abuse that's going on in that Xinjiang, the part of China,
Yes.
China itself is not apologetic. Also, when you look at the OIC countries, are they really kind of stepping up and saying this is not tenable and you cannot do this? I don't really see really many countries that are other Muslim or even the Arab countries sort of showing their disapproval. They're almost
Yeah.
like looking the other way, which is very shocking because they have their own ties to China. Some of them, where is Turkey?
Yeah.
Turkey should be voicing out their concerns,
Malaysia.
but they don't. They're completely in bed with China in other ways. So the more media focus will be good, of course. I think the US making a very strong point finally is very important, and sanctioning China would be the way to go. We haven't seen the sanctions for COVID or for what's happening with the Uyghurs in that region. So we can hold our breath, I think, as far as punishment and sanctions go. It would be a start. Let's see if this administration does something. I know that
Okay.
they're talking about it at least, which is good. Whether they do it or not, but the UN, where is the UN? It's never around, right?
Human
Never
right.
done
Human
anything
right.
in 70
Exactly.
years. So
Exactly.
we hope that they'll also, I mean, other than statements, to be honest, they're a private body that doesn't actually have any bearing on, any resolutions or anything like that. So I think it's up to the whole world to sort of, kind of amp it up, with what's happening with the Uyghurs, but also just general the human rights abuses that happens to their
Yes.
own citizens in China as well.
Exactly.
No one wants to talk about that. Even the Chinese people can't voice it, right? Um,
Yes.
so, we only hope that the world is even more angrier, and then, they'll feel a little cornered, I think.
ओके। अब जाएंगे, अफगानिस्तान पीस प्रोसेस इज अ वेरी क्रूशियल इशू इन दिस रीजन फ्रॉम लास्ट 4 decades और 5 decades वी कैन से। अगर हम बात कर लें इस वक्त, बहुत ज़्यादा बात हुई, अगर दोहा की बात करते हैं, इस्तांबुल की बात करते हैं, मॉस्को में 2-3 बड़े समिट्स हुए। पाकिस्तान एक बहुत बड़ा फोकस उसका है अमेरिका का कि आप बातचीत हमारी करवाएं, डायलॉग्स करवाएं, और हुए भी। पाकिस्तान के अंदर बहुत ज़्यादा डेलीगेशंस आए अफगान तालिबान के और बहुत सारे अफगान गवर्नमेंट के। क्या नज़र आ रहा है कि इन द नियर फ्यूचर इज इट पॉसिबल कि जो अफगान तालिबान वर्सेस द अफगान गवर्नमेंट एंड द यूएस can tackle the issue with each other or not?
Gee, exactly. One of the interesting things that has happened, surprisingly, I don't think anybody expected this with the Biden administration, is they recently they had the Afghan peace talks. They, for the first time, they included India to join in with
Yes.
I think 5 or 6 other countries, because they finally realized that one of the greatest stakeholders in this whole peace process is India, considering they're a neighbor, and also they've, over the last 2 decades, they spent over 3 billion, and they genuinely is sort of only cared for the Afghani people, and of course we uphold democracy in Afghanistan. So it was great to see the US include India. I think India is a very important player, because remember, if the US troops pull out without leaving anything behind, they're going to leave a vacuum, and very easy for radicals and the more rogue elements to sort of take hold of the power, and then that only affects India anyway. So we have a lot to lose. So I think it's important for India to kind of step up and say we want to play a role in this finally. So that's a good thing. You're absolutely right. I think the most favorable outcome is a ceasefire
Yeah.
in the agreement of a transitional government between the Taliban and the democratically led Afghan government led by Ashraf Ghani
Yeah.
Saab, right? And I know it's like, how can you sort of come together with the two adversaries? You have to, and it's not, honestly, the U.S. wants to take. Uh, I guess credit for all of this. Look, they have done nothing in the 20 years that they've been here. They were supposed to bring peace. A foreign intervention has only messed up the situation. Or, worse, ask any Afghani what they think about the presence there, and they will tell you. So only the Afghani people can solve this. Only they can take care of their peace process and so on. So the two have to come together. The U.S. can facilitate that. I think they've been trying to facilitate it for a long time, but I think with some more players now and maybe with India in the mix as well, that can finally happen. But it has to come that way. It cannot
Okay.
come with foreign force. That will only get more messier. And the U.S. They're saying that September 11th they're going to completely
Yeah.
pull out. I don't see that happening. That's too soon. A lot of troops. Also, you don't just pull out like abruptly overnight, right? Then it's actually worse. You might as well stay there and phase out properly, which I think, I know there's a lot of Americans who are not for war. They don't understand how conflicts work, how militaries work, how all
Yeah.
of this works. You can't just pack up and leave overnight. You have to have
No.
something phased. You need a presence. You will always have a presence, either of US, NATO allies, anyone, because you need somebody to make sure that the thing doesn't all explode once you've left, because the problem doesn't end there. It almost begins there. So I have faith that they'll come together, but I think it's going to take a lot of countries to sort of work together on it.
Okay, I will ask two things related to the Afghan peace process. One is the role of India. पाकिस्तान को एक बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है उस चीज़ से, उस रोल से। बल्कि 2 दिन पहले फॉरेन ऑफिस की एक प्रेस रिलीज आई, उसमें उन्होंने कहा कि हमें इतराज़ है इस चीज़ के ऊपर कि इंडिया अपना कोई रोल प्ले करता है अफगान पीस प्रोसेस। एंड द अदर थिंग इज़ द यूएस रोल। यूएस तकरीबन कोई लास्ट 20 ईयर्स से अफगानिस्तान में है। क्या किया उन्होंने फॉर द ऑर्डिनरी अफगान? मतलब मैं जो थोड़ा बहुत देखता हूं या मेरे मुख्तलिफ इलाकों में मेरे दोस्त हैं, तो उनसे मैं पूछता हूं कि यार क्या ऐसा किया उन्होंने लास्ट 20 ईयर्स में कि हम कहें कि यूएस ने 20 साल गुजारे यहां पर और उसने डिलीवर किया टू द अफगान नेशन।
Ji, bilkul. I'll answer your second question
ओके।
first. Almost nothing. 20 years, what trillions of dollars wasted,
यस।
lots of even US lives lost. And no, it's a bad idea that was not executed properly or thought of. And I think they've only terrorized the area more. The common Afghani is terrified of this presence,
एग्जैक्टली।
and they don't understand the, kind of the complexities of war and conflicts and all of that. All they see are troops and it's poverty and violence and so on. So I think it has not been obviously good for the Afghani people. I think the U.S. Should never boast of their achievement in Afghanistan. Remember, Afghanistan is known as the graveyard of all empires, because whether Soviet Union or Central Asia, anyone who's
एग्जैक्टली।
ever come there trying to conquer it has ended. So the US, I
एग्जैक्टली।
don't think they want to be the next empire to even the British Empire. They also seriously suffered as a result. So you don't want
एग्जैक्टली।
US to be the next great country to sort of really get hit while trying to do some create some magic in that very kind of ominous kind of part of the world. So I think with the US, it's just as sad that it's so 20 years is a long time,
या
and
एग्जैक्टली।
long conflicts take long time to end. if you think this is going to end in a few months worth of negotiations, no, it's going to take a long, long time. The other question, um, yes, I'm sure Pakistan is not thrilled with India's involvement. However, for the betterment of the region, I think India is a responsible country that has over the last 20 years given about $3 billion, and they have not put troops there. They haven't, they have a very good relationship with Afghanistan, and they have
Yes.
never overstepped, I think, their welcome, which I think was very smart. I'm very critical of Indian diplomacy sometimes, but I think how they have dealt with Afghanistan is actually good. They have stayed a distance and just given them support. I don't think they should ever get too involved. I think give support to the Afghani government and whatever they need, and that we're there for them. And in areas like democracy, women's rights, human rights, all those wonderful things. I think that's when that's when where we can come in and help in whatever way that we can. I think anything more than that, then you're just going to become like the U.S. military there. They'll just be seen like that. So I think Pakistan needs to understand that an Indian kind of entry now into this puzzle is going to be better in the end for everybody involved, including Pakistan. So I think they will slowly start seeing that, because I'm noticing a change in also your everyday average Pakistani. I think their view of India has changed. They don't see India as some like the cause of all of their problems. I think for the first time they're questioning their own government, and there's a lot of anger, which is healthy, because maybe a few decades ago they didn't do. I mean, you had some people who did, but not en masse, right? Now you see a lot of people very upset, disappointed that they've been sort of sold a bridge. So India is not even in the equation. It's you they're looking at their own backyard, I guess. So that's a
Yes.
big shift I see, which I think is better for Pakistan, of course, but also that whole region.
ओके एक प्रीति एक और चीज़ है कि व्हाट्स द रोल ऑफ पाकिस्तान इन अफगानिस्तान, क्योंकि अफगानिस्तान के हवाले से पाकिस्तान को बहुत ज़्यादा लॉस हुआ वॉर ऑन टेरर। जब लास्ट 20 ईयर्स की हम बात करते हैं अफगानिस्तान में, तो दैट लास्ट 20 ईयर्स पाकिस्तान आल्सो सफर्ड सो मेनी थिंग्स। वी हैव लॉस्ट मोर देन 70,000 लाइव्स
Yeah.
and more than $120 billion loss to our economy. और जिस इलाके से मैं बिलोंग करता हूँ, दैट इज द खैबर पुख्तनख्वा, दैट इज प्रोविंस विद अ बॉर्डर टू अफगानिस्तान। तो वहाँ पर इतने बड़े बड़े मतलब वाकयात हुए कि किसी ग्रेवयार्ड में आप जाते हैं तो वहाँ पे आपको किसी न किसी को कोई ना कोई एक आपको ऐसा मिलेगा जो किसी बम ब्लास्ट में उसकी जिंदगी गई, या कोई वहाँ पे पुलिस ऑफिसर या कोई मतलब फोर्सेस का आदमी, उसकी वहाँ पे आपको ग्रेवयार्ड में कोई ना कोई आपकी एक ग्रेव नज़र लाजमी आएगी। हर कब्रिस्तान की मैं बात करता हूँ। तो उस हवाले से पाकिस्तान के ऊपर प्रेशर तो बहुत डाला जाता है, और एक बात ये की जाती है कि पाकिस्तान ने ही सारे हालात खराब किए। बट वी टॉक अबाउट दैट कि अभी कुछ थोड़ा सा चेंज आ रहा है उस एक माइंड सेट के अंदर।
Yes.
लोग अब कहते हैं कि नहीं, अभी क्योंकि हार्ट टॉक में लास्ट वीक गालिबन अतमर साहब बैठे थे यूके में, तो उन्होंने भी पाकिस्तान को क्रिटिसाइज नहीं किया, जो मेरे लिए एक बहुत बड़ा चेंज था कि ही वाज नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट द पाकिस्तान, ही इज टॉकिंग अबाउट द प्रॉब्लम्स ऑफ अफगानिस्तान। तो क्या नजर आ रहा है कि पाकिस्तान को मजीद क्या ऐसा कर लेना चाहिए कि अफगानिस्तान के अंदर पीस आए, लोगों की जिंदगियां बेहतर हों?
Ji bilkul. Yes, I think nobody talks about the price that Pakistan has paid. And when I say Pakistan, I don't mean the military or the ISI
Yeah.
or Imran Khan or the government. I mean the poor the good people of Pakistan, right? For decades, because somehow their government, their military got involved in this so-called peace process of several decades ago, and it was not there was no plan to begin with, and you have some rogue elements who wanted to exploit it. And sadly, I think the Pakistani people were the greatest victims of state sponsored whatever radicalization or
Yeah.
violence or whatnot. And it's very sad. And I think if the rest of the world knew the price that Pakistan paid in this whole Afghan peace process, they would have more sympathy for the people, and they would not sort of push Pakistan to do something that it shouldn't do or it doesn't want to do. And I know the US has given billions in aid, but that aid never gets to the people. It goes into all sorts of things, into someone's pockets or whatnot, subversive means, right? So I think if you're talking about infrastructure development, that hasn't happened, sadly. And, I think it also creates a lot of resentment in the minds of young Pakistani, I mean, the youth and so on, because they're angry with the world, they're angry with the US, and also I wish more Indians knew the price that Pakistan paid, because we only look at military and so on, and we think, well, they have themselves to blame for their problems in some way. That is true, but the cost, I think, the human cost of this war has been heavy on Pakistan, and uh, I think many people don't know that. Even in Southeast Asia, many people don't know that, which is a shame. And if they knew that, I think they might be a little bit more compassionate and sympathetic, and they want to maybe uh, do what they can to sort of help, rather than just judge without knowing, I guess. So, but I see also Pakistanis. I think the thing is that there is a change in the mindset, and they are also speaking out to the world and sharing. They're questioning their government. They're questioning their military. They're questioning the way of the way of the army. I think for so long, and has it worked? It obviously it hasn't. And how long will this go on? I think it's time for a brave new sort of governance, and because it's a country with so much potential, and you need good governance, and you can't have a military have so much power. You have to sort of curtail that. So I hope that happens at some point in my lifetime. That would be amazing to watch. Yeah.
एक्चुअली अभी एक नया लॉ पास किया गया असेंबली से कि अगर आप हमारी जो पाकिस्तान की फौज है उसके खिलाफ कोई बात करेंगे, बल्कि उसके खिलाफ नहीं, अगर आप कोई मजाक उड़ाते हैं तो यू कैन बी प्रिजनर फॉर 2 years एंड 0.5 million फाइन आपको हो सकता है। तो ये चीज इसलिए की गई कि मैं अपने ट्विटर पे, माइट बी पॉसिबल आप देखती होंगी, बट मैं लिखता हूं कि इज्जत जबरदस्ती नहीं होती।
यस,
रिस्पेक्ट मतलब यू कैन नॉट, यस एग्जैक्टली, यू अर्न। एब्सोल्युटली राइट, एब्सोल्युटली राइट, बिल्कुल। तो मैं ये लिखता हूं कि यार आप हमसे जबरदस्ती इज्जत ना करवाएं, आप ऐसे काम करें कि हम आपकी इज्जत करने पे मजबूर हो, हम दिल से आपकी इज्जत करें, कि हम कहें दुनिया की बहुत सारी फोर्सेज हैं दुनिया में, मतलब हैं, हर कंट्री की अपनी फोर्स होती है, लोग उसकी बहुत रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं, हम भी चाहते हैं। लेकिन अगर आप आके पार्लियामेंट के अंदर इंटरफेरेंस करते हैं, पॉलिटिकल इंटरफेरेंस करते हैं, हमारी फॉरेन पॉलिसी को आप मतलब उसको जिसे कहते हैं अपने रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशन के मुताबिक चलाते हैं, तो हमें उसके ऊपर बात करनी है। उसका एट द एंड लॉस जो है, एज ए सिटीजन ऑफ पाकिस्तान अगर मैं बात करूंगा, तो मुझे हो रहा है, आपको नहीं हो रहा, ना आपके फैमिलीज को हो रहा है, ना आपको हो रहा है, ना आपके इदारे को हो रहा है, बट मुझे हो रहा है, मैं उसको पे करता हूं। ये चीज हुई। एक अगर पाकिस्तान हिंदुस्तान रिलेशनशिप की हम बात करें, तो अभी एस्टेब्लिशमेंट का रोल पाकिस्तान में, ये अब ओपन है, ये बात सबको पता है कि क्या होता है। बट डू यू सी कि ऐसा हो सकता है कि ये सारी चीजें होने के बावजूद पाकिस्तान हिंदुस्तान के आपस में रिलेशनशिप अच्छे हो सकते हैं, एंड द पीपल टू पीपल कॉन्टैक्ट जो है वो बेहतर हो सकता है?
Gee, I think that's the only hope. It won't be military to military or government to government. That will never happen. I think, Pakistanis and Indians, whether in their respective countries or whether in the US or UK, I think the more they understand that they are so alike from the same tree, so to speak, and we both, the whole world, as well, you can say, COVID hasn't been discriminatory. Everyone is dealing with the pandemic. Everyone is dealing with trying to get people out of poverty, education, women's rights, human rights, all of these things. Even in America, they have to fight for these things. So I think if both Pakistanis and Indians realize that we are first human, and then
Good.
beyond that, we're spiritual beings anyway. And I think we are so close that you have to develop compassion for each other. I'm happy to see that there's a big shift in the mindset of Pakistanis, especially the youth. I mean, they don't look at India the way that their parents or grandparents used to. I think with India, they have kind of moved on to some other kind of level altogether, where they're not worried about Pakistan in that way, or they have no animosity. Or I mean, it's been like that for some time, but I think they just keep thinking about their own future and idea of India. Where do you want to see India go in the next 10 years? We have our own issues
Yeah.
to deal with as well, on this unemployment issues. Post COVID economy needs to get up. And things like that. So I think we're so focused on our own internal problems that we don't look at the neighborhood as a threat. And to be quite honest, China is the big problem for India anyway. I think our even the threat that Pakistan poses is very different today. And I don't think that there'll ever be any real war or anything, certainly not nuclear or conventional, for sure, definitely never. So
Okay.
it's just India dealing with China border issues, and they just want China to back off and stop the unnecessary sort of with all the proxy stuff that it does. But I want to see, because I have a lot of Pakistani friends. I grew up with them actually, because I grew up in Dubai. I grew up all around the Middle East, so I have
Yes.
a soft spot for them. I've never had any negative experience, so I would like to see them maybe see how we are more similar than different.
Yeah. राइट। लास्ट में हम बात करेंगे प्रीति क्रिकेट के हवाले से। अगर इंडिया और पाकिस्तान के दो लोग बैठे हों और क्रिकेट के ऊपर बात ना करें तो मेरे ख्याल में ये बहुत ज्यादती होगी। और आजकल सबसे बड़ा क्रिकेट का, दुनिया का शायद सबसे बड़ा एक टूर्नामेंट आईपीएल, इंडियन प्रीमियर लीग शुरू है हिंदुस्तान में। कोविड के बावजूद लास्ट ईयर नहीं हो सका था, दैट वाज शिफ्टेड टू द गल्फ, बट दिस ईयर कोविड के बावजूद वहां पे हो रहा है। और मुझे बड़ी खुशी हो रही है कि ग्राउंड में लोग नहीं है बट प्लेयर्स जो है 22 प्लेयर्स वो खेल रहे हैं। और मैं क्योंकि यहाँ पे मैचेस देखता हूँ, आई एम अ क्रिकेट लवर, तो और इंडिया के मैचेस हो या पाकिस्तान के मैचेस हो कहीं पर भी, तो मैं कोशिश करता हूं कि यार कोई ऐसे मेरे पास डिश टीवी लगाओ जिसमें साथ दोनों के मैचेस मतलब ब्रॉडकास्ट मुझे मिले। आईपीएल के हवाले से पहले आईपीएल में पाकिस्तानी प्लेयर्स थे, उसके बाद जो भी हुआ वो एक अलग मसला है। पाकिस्तान हिंदुस्तान के बीच में ये क्लैशेस हैं, 1947 से शुरू है और पता नहीं कब तक होंगे, बट होते हैं। अब नहीं है वहां पर। उसके बावजूद भी बहुत सारे पाकिस्तानी इस वक्त भी जिसको एक्सेस है वो आईपीएल देखता है।
Yes.
क्या नजर आता है? अफगानिस्तान के प्लेयर्स हैं, उससे भी मुझे बड़ी खुशी होती है। परसों मैं रशीद खान को देख रहा था और दूसरे 2-3 और लोग थे वहां पर। मतलब आई रियली लाइक दैट कि वहां पे मतलब लोग आते हैं और क्रिकेट खेलते हैं। हालांकि बाकी दुनिया से आते हैं और पाकिस्तान हिंदुस्तान के ज्यादा लोग देखना पसंद करते हैं, लेकिन नहीं है अनफॉर्चुनेटली। वो माइट बी पॉसिबल कि नेक्स्ट कमिंग ईयर्स जो है उसमें हो जाए। क्या नजर आ रहा है इस वक्त? एक तो आईपीएल के हवाले से, इस इतने बड़े टूर्नामेंट के हवाले से यूएस में बैठ के क्या लगता है क्रिकेट को देख के? क्योंकि वहां पे लोग, फुटबॉल है, बहुत सारी और स्पोर्ट्स हैं, बट नॉट अ क्रिकेट।
जी बिल्कुल. America is the second largest cricket market in the world. Number one is India, of course, but America somehow is number two because of the diaspora, which includes Indians, Pakistanis, Sri Lankans, Bangladeshis, Nepalis, and then of course Australian English and so on. It's been amazing. I'm very proud and happy that IPL is not happening in Dubai. I'm happy that it's happening in India where it belongs, because it's the Indian Premier League. And no crowd, that's fine. It doesn't make a difference. The players are playing like they are 100,000 people in the audience, and when you watch the telecast, they have noise effects, so it really looks like there's fans
That's good,
screaming.
that's
I
good.
think they've done a great job. It's the biggest tournament in the world, I think, in many ways. IPL, I have always said, has done more for Indian soft power than its own diplomats can ever dream of. It's been amazing for India. I think the rise of IPL, or the Indian dominance in cricket, is very kind of parallel to India's dominance in the world or its rise in the world. They're definitely connected in many ways. I'm happy to see them dominate world cricket, and they will be the dominant force for the next decade, at least, if not more. If you want cricket to last for another 100 years, there's only one country that can make that happen, and that is India, because of the fans. They will uphold it, cherish it. They will do that. You can forget. I mean, the country where it comes from, England. Forget it. They're too small, and it's not going to happen. And they're very obsessed with soccer, and there are other sports. So I think with India, you have something very unique. And the Afghan players in particular, I think every Indian loves the Afghani players. I think
Yeah.
Rashid Khan has done more for
Yeah.
India-Afghanistan relations than probably
Exactly.
the government have. We love him, and he always talks about India, uh, what it's given him, what it's given the Afghanistan team when they play in the World Cup, because they practiced in India and they were able to play with Indian players and coaches and so on. Um, I think Bollywood as well, along with cricket, has been one of the bonds, I think, or one of the reasons why Afghanis love India so much, because that's
Yeah.
how they see India. I think IPL is very exciting. It's a very unpredictable IPL. I think maybe there'll be a unpredictable winner. I don't know who you're
Exactly.
going for, but let's see who will win. But I think it's going to be very exciting and very interesting.
ओके अगर हम बात करते हैं पाकिस्तान हिंदुस्तान क्रिकेट डिप्लोमेसी की, तो इज इट पॉसिबल कि अभी क्योंकि वर्ल्ड कप है दिस ईयर इन अक्टूबर, T20 वर्ल्ड कप विल बी देयर इन इंडिया, तो उन्होंने तो कह दिया कि लोग भी आ सकते हैं, हम उनको वीजाज भी देंगे और टीम ने तो आना ही आना है. तो क्या नजर आ रहा है कि इन नियर फ्यूचर कैन वी सी द मैचेस बिटवीन पाकिस्तान एंड इंडिया?
So Bilkul, definitely T20 World Cup and all of that international tournaments that are played in India or anywhere else in the world. Definitely, it's both countries will, and they will be allowed, and that's totally fine. I think bilateral series, unfortunately, for political reasons, and for national security reasons, and for to respect the defense and the paramilitary forces and all of that, uh,
Yeah.
cricket is just a game in the end. When you have lives being lost on the border and all of that skirmishes and stuff, a game doesn't make sense, because I think it would be maybe too disrespectful to the parents of the soldiers that have sort of perished, and so on. So I think because both countries are very nationalistic, very patriotic, very proud, also very proud of their army and the Jawans and so on, I think unless all of that stops, which I don't see it stopping in the way that it needs to, I don't think a bilateral series will happen. Maybe someone can make sort of some kind of quasi bilateral series in the future, but I think it's going to be a few years before that happens, because I just think that if you just ask the average person, I think they're suddenly national security and all these things are very important to them, and they're taking all of that very, very seriously. And cricket just becomes a game when it comes to that conversation. So I think we'll be waiting a long time before that happens. But these are the two most passionate countries in the world, and when they play, it's even a lot of Indians, they also love Pakistani players. They love the team, the way that how aggressive the team is, how fast they are, because it has what we don't have, the fast bowlers and that raw winning talent. And then, of course, Indian team has its own things that are special, our spinners and the great batsmen and so on.
Exactly.
So we sort of respect each other a lot. But I'm very happy to see that Pakistanis are so into IPL. Every
Yeah.
Pakistani I know is obsessed with IPL as the Indians are. So it's very amazing.
बहुत क्योंकि लोगों को बड़ा इंतजार रहता है PSL, पाकिस्तान सुपर लीग जो है उसका भी अनफॉर्चुनेटली वो भी इस दफा कंप्लीट नहीं हो सका बिकॉज ऑफ द कोविड एंड आईपीएल क्योंकि अभी चल रहा है तो हम लोग जैसे ही मुझे मतलब टाइम मिलता है और उस वक्त अगर मैच चल रहा हो तो मैं देख रहा हूँ तो ट्विटर पे तो मैं तकरीबन मोस्टली टीम्स को फॉलो कर रहा हूँ तो वहां से तो मुझे बहुत लेटेस्ट इंफॉर्मेशन मिल जाती है। और आपने बात की कि लोग दोनों साइड से लोग बहुत रिस्पेक्ट करते हैं, पसंद करते हैं। मतलब पर्सनली मैं जब से क्रिकेट मतलब स्कूल टाइम से मैं खेलता भी हूँ एंड आई एम वॉचिंग क्रिकेट, तो यकीन करें कि मतलब जब भी मैंने देखा, मैंने सचिन तेंदुलकर साहब को देखा, मैंने राहुल द्रविड़ साहब को देखा, मैंने वहां के बहुत बड़े बड़े बॉलर्स को देखा, बिलीव मी कि मुझे बड़ा एक मजा आता है। आज भी कहीं पे उनके मतलब ट्विटर अकाउंट पे मैं जाता हूँ और जब देखता हूँ तो आई लव दैट, मुझे बड़ा अच्छा लगता है। विराट है आजकल, मतलब धोनी, महेंद्र सिंह धोनी, मतलब वन ऑफ माय फेवरेट कैप्टन इंडिया
My
का।
favorite.
ओके दैट्स गुड।
Yes.
बहुत मुझे पसंद है उसका पैशन कि मतलब जिस तरीके से वो मैच को चेंज करता था वो आदमी, और मतलब आज भी मुझे बड़ा पसंद है। उसके ऐड आ रहे होते हैं टेलीविजन के ऊपर तो मुझे मतलब आई लव दैट। बल्कि मैं सिर्फ नहीं, बहुत सारे लोगों से मैं पूछता हूं तो शायद सारे इंडियंस उनको ना जानते हो बट लॉट्स ऑफ पाकिस्तानी नो अबाउट देम कि यार ये कौन है, ये क्या करते हैं, ऑलराउंडर है, किस किस्म के स्पिनर है, विकेट्स कितनी लिए, रन्स कितने बनाए। तो बड़ा अच्छा लगता है और आई होप सो अभी नहीं लेकिन कभी भी तो पाकिस्तान इंडिया के बीच में मैचेस होंगे प्रीति, और हम लोग देखेंगे, आप लोग यूएस से देखेंगे, हम पाकिस्तान से देखेंगे। और इस दफा तो मेरा इरादा भी है कि मैं हिंदुस्तान जाऊंगा फॉर द T20 वर्ल्ड कप। तो क्योंकि मैंने अभी से अपने ऑफिस में ये सारी चीज बताई हुई है कि मतलब आई वांट टू कवर दैट, तो होपफुली कि फिर ये चीजें हम लोग वहां पे देखें। थैंक यू वेरी मच प्रीति कि आपने अपना टाइम दिया, क्योंकि बहुत लेट नाइट है वहां पर। और एक चीज, मिस इंडिया, फॉर्मर मिस इंडिया लिखा हुआ है प्रीति ने, इस हवाले से हमारी बात नहीं हो सकी, लेकिन नेक्स्ट किसी शो में इस हवाले से बात करेंगे। और मैं इंट्रोडक्शन में भी आई एम सॉरी फॉर दैट कि मैं ये नहीं बता सका। हालांकि कल मैं अपनी एक फ्रेंड से बात कर रहा था तो मैंने कहा कि वो फॉर्मर मिस इंडिया है प्रीति, मतलब मैं कहा उसके साथ मेरा एक इंटरव्यू है तो द पीपल आर आस्किंग मी कि अच्छा कौन है ये, कौन है, तो इसके बारे में भी हम लोग बात करेंगे।
Oh, you're so sweet, Yousafzai Saab, for saying that. And I mean, beauty queen. I mean, beauty pageant. What modeling is one thing, but I think what else I do, right? Speaking on these important topics and involved in media, Hollywood,
Yeah,
politics is much more interesting. You know who I am and what I have to offer to the world. You know, the former Miss India International is just some
yeah,
title that I got. It doesn't define me. I've enjoyed this conversation so much, and
thank
I
you.
hope I meet you in India during the T20 World Cup. I should plan on going there myself, and
Yeah,
maybe we'll catch up there. It'll be so nice
yeah, exactly.
to connect with you in person. And thank
Yeah,
you again for having me on your amazing show. All your wonderful audience, please find
thank you.
me on social media on Twitter. It's the
Yeah,
Preeti Effect, and my YouTube channel is the Preeti Experience, and Instagram is also the Preeti Effect. So please connect with me, ask me questions, whatever, send a request. I'm
yeah.
very accessible. I love to engage. And please look at my Twitter line because I'm doing a lot of IPL updates. I'm doing cricket commentary and so on. So all cricket fans out there, please tune in. I think you're gonna love some of the IPL stuff that I'm involved in.
थैंक यू वेरी मच प्रीति वंस अगेन एंड बिल्कुल प्रीति एक्सपीरियंस के नाम से जो यूट्यूब चैनल चला रही है प्रीति, मैंने उसको देखा, एक बहुत खूबसूरत सा छोटा सा एक टीजर बना हुआ है इन द बिगिनिंग। बड़ा मतलब दैट इज, आई लव दैट। मैंने 2-3 दफा
Thank
उसको
you.
देखा और मुझे मतलब आई हैव लर्न सो मेनी थिंग फ्रॉम दैट कि यार मैं मतलब इस तरह की चीज बनाऊं, एंड दैट इज वेरी गुड। मैंने बल्कि 2-3 दिन पहले भी मैंने आपका पूरा चैनल मुख्तलिफ इंटरव्यूज एंड मुख्तलिफ टीवी चैनल्स के ऊपर TV9 के साथ था और भी डिफरेंट चैनल्स के साथ मैंने देखा उसको, एंड दैट इज वेरी गुड। आप लोग देख सकते हैं इनको, ट्विटर के ऊपर हैं, यूट्यूब के ऊपर हैं, और मैंने भी एक्सेस इनको ट्विटर के ऊपर किया। मुझे मतलब नहीं था पता कि मतलब हम कांटेक्ट में आएंगे और हमारा इंटरव्यू होगा, बट आई रियली लव दैट। बहुत खुशी हुई मुझे प्रीति के साथ आज आज बैठकर बहुत अच्छी डिस्कशन हुई, बहुत सारी चीजें। एंड नेक्स्ट टाइम आई होप सो कि हम फिर किसी दिन बैठेंगे और जो हमारे बहुत सारी चीजें, क्योंकि सारी नहीं हो सकती एक किसी शो
Yes.
में 40 या 50 मिनट में, तो वी विल डिस्कस दैट। प्रीति, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर वंस अगेन फॉर द पार्ट ऑफ डिबेट विद फखर यूसुफजई।
Namaste, namaste.
ओके व्यूअर्स,
Thank you, everyone. Shukriya. Thank you.
बहुत शुक्रिया, थैंक यू वेरी मच व्यूअर्स फॉर वाचिंग डिबेट विद फखर यूसुफजई। टेक केयर एंड बाय।